I wiped my hands on the tattered apron tied around my waist, sighing as I glanced around the dimly lit hotel room. It smelled of stale air and too much perfume, the sheets wrinkled from whoever had last slept in them. Another shift, another room, another day of cleaning up after strangers who would never know my name. This was my life. At 40, I never imagined I'd be here, working as a maid in a second-rate hotel, my back aching from scrubbing floors, my feet sore from walking up and down endless corridors. But life had a way of unraveling in unexpected ways. My husband, once a man I thought I could rely on, had long since been swallowed whole by his addiction. Cards, dice, sports betting, anything to feel the rush, the illusion of control. But there was no control in our home, only debts and resentment. I had long stopped hoping for change. The only light in my life was my son, Daniel. 19, tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that still carried the innocence of childhood but the weight of someone forced to grow up too soon. He had always been my anchor. He lived with us, still trying to figure out his future, and I selfishly held on to that. The thought of him leaving one day tightened something in my chest. I got home late that night, the apartment dark and quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Daniel was on the couch, one leg bent, a book resting against his knee. His face lit up the moment he saw me. "Hey, Ma." The warmth in his voice was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. "Hey, sweetheart." I dropped my bag by the door and kicked off my shoes, my body screaming for rest. He set the book down and stood, stretching his arms before walking toward me. "Tough shift?" he asked, already knowing the answer. I let out a dry laugh. "Aren't they all?" He stepped closer, reaching for my hand, and something about the way he held it, gentle, steady, made my throat tighten. "Come sit," he urged, leading me to the couch. "Let him." I always did. I leaned into the couch, feeling the weight of the day press into my body. My son, Daniel, sat beside me, his presence warm and steady. The apartment was quiet, the only sound the faint ticking of the clock on the wall and the hum of the city outside. "You should rest," Daniel said softly, his fingers still curled around mine. His hands were warm, rougher than I remembered, a reminder that he was no longer the small boy who used to cling to me when he had nightmares. I closed my eyes for a moment. "I know. Just 5 minutes." Daniel let out a small chuckle. "You always say that, and then you're out for hours." I smiled, squeezing his hand before finally letting go. "You're too good to me, sweetheart." He shook his head. "You deserve it." I exhaled slowly, my eyes drifting around the small apartment. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom with a pull-out couch where Daniel slept most nights. The wallpaper was peeling, the furniture second-hand, but it was home. "What about you?" I asked, shifting slightly to face him. "You work just as hard. Between classes and that job at the auto shop, when do you ever rest?" He shrugged. "I'm fine." Gave him a look. "That's not an answer." He smirked. "It's the only one you're getting." I sighed, knowing there was no winning this battle. He was stubborn just like me. Silence settled between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable. If anything, it felt safe. Then his voice came softer this time. "Mom, why don't you ever do something for yourself?" I blinked, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" He shifted slightly, his knee brushing against mine. "You work all the time. You take care of everything. But when's the last time you did something just for you?" I let out a small laugh. "Sweetheart, I don't exactly have the luxury of time or money for that." Daniel frowned. "That's not fair." "That's life," I countered. He shook his head, his jaw tightening. "It shouldn't be." I reached out, brushing my fingers through his hair like I used to when he was younger. He closed his eyes for a brief second, exhaling slowly. "You take care of me," he murmured. "Let me take care of you for once." I felt something in my chest tighten, an ache so deep it almost hurt. "You already do," I whispered. Daniel's eyes met mine, and for a moment, I swore I saw something flicker there. Something unspoken, something neither of us could quite name. I reached for his hand again, holding it tightly. As long as I have you, I'm okay. His grip tightened in return. Me too, Mom. We sat there for a long time, neither of us moving, neither of us speaking. Just two people finding solace in the only thing we had left each other. I had noticed the change in Daniel almost immediately. It started subtly. Longer hours out of the apartment, vague explanations when I asked where he'd been. At first, I told myself I was overthinking. He was 19 after all, a young man with his own life. Maybe he had made new friends, maybe even met a girl. The thought made me smile. He had always been shy about that sort of thing, brushing off my questions with a laugh and a shake of his head. Come on, sweetheart, I teased one evening when he returned late. His hair tousled, his shirt slightly wrinkled. You can tell me if there's someone special. He scoffed, kicking off his shoes. Mom! I raised an eyebrow. What? I'm your mother. I have the right to know if some pretty girl is stealing my son's heart. He smirked but didn't say anything. Instead, he walked past me into the kitchen, opening the fridge as if searching for an answer inside. His silence only made me more curious, but I let it go. Whatever it was, he'd tell me when he was ready. But as the days turned into weeks, his late nights continued. Sometimes he would leave right after dinner. Other times he wouldn't come home until just before dawn. Each time I asked, I got the same answer. I'm just out, Mom. Don't worry. Course I worried. It was impossible not to. But he was an adult and I had to trust him. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. For the first time in a month, Daniel was home in the evenings again, sharing dinner with me, watching old movies on the couch, walking me home from work when he could. The late nights were over, and with them my suspicions of a secret romance. I wanted to ask what had changed, but I held my tongue. If he wanted to tell me, he would. Then, one evening, something completely unexpected happened. I had just finished my shift at the hotel, my back aching from bending over beds, my feet sore from walking endless corridors. The lobby was nearly empty as I stepped outside, the cool night air a welcome relief. And there he was, Daniel, waiting for me. But it wasn't just that he was waiting, it was how he looked. Dressed in a crisp button-up shirt, a dark jacket that fit him perfectly. His hair neatly styled in a way I had never seen before. He looked grown, mature, handsome. For a moment I couldn't speak. Daniel, I finally breathed. What are you doing here? He smiled, that same warm, boyish smile I had known all my life. But there was something else in his expression. Something proud. Something excited. I came to pick you up, he said simply. Frowned, confused. Pick me up for what? He held out a beautifully wrapped box, the dark ribbon tied in an elegant bow. Go inside and open it, he said. I'll be waiting right here. You have 15 minutes. I stared at him, bewildered. Daniel, what is this? He only smiled. Just trust me. Still feeling stunned, I stepped back inside the hotel, slipping into the employee lounge. With trembling fingers, I pulled the ribbon loose and lifted the lid. Inside was the most beautiful dress I had ever seen. It was a deep shade of blue, the fabric smooth and silky beneath my fingertips. The kind of dress I had only ever seen in store windows, the kind I had never imagined wearing myself. I touched the material, my throat tightening. Where had this come from? How had Daniel, my son, my boy, managed this? And more importantly, why? I swallowed hard, glancing at my reflection in the small mirror on the wall. My hair was a mess, my face tired from the long workday. But something about the dress, just the sight of it, made me feel different, special, like someone who deserved to wear something so beautiful. I changed quickly, smoothing the fabric down over my hips. It fit perfectly, as if it had been made just for me. Taking a deep breath, I stepped outside. Daniel was still there, waiting. When he saw me, his expression changed. His eyes widened, his lips parting slightly before he broke into a slow, genuine smile. Wow, he murmured. You look beautiful, Mom. I felt my cheeks warm, my heart swelling with emotion. Daniel! I shook my head, still unable to believe what was happening. Where are we going? He extended his arm to me like a gentleman. You'll see. And just like that, he led me away from the hotel, away from the long hours and the exhaustion and the routine of my everyday life. For the first time in as long as I could remember, I let someone else take care of me. I let my son take care of me. And I had never felt more loved. The city lights shimmered like 1,000 tiny stars against the dark sky as Daniel led me down the bustling street. The cool evening air brushed against my bare arms, but I hardly noticed. The warmth of his presence beside me, the gentle but firm way he held my hand in his, made me feel as if I were floating. I still couldn't believe what was happening. My son, my sweet, thoughtful, beautiful boy, had planned something for me. Not just something small, not just a simple outing, but something extravagant, something that made me feel cherished. I wanted to ask where we were going, but a part of me didn't want to ruin the surprise. So I simply let myself be guided, my heels clicking softly against the pavement, my dress flowing around me like a whispered dream. And then I saw it. A restaurant. Not just any restaurant. A grand, elegant place with soft golden lights glowing from within. The kind of establishment where the rich and sophisticated dined, where waiters in crisp uniforms glided effortlessly between tables, where the hum of quiet conversations mixed with the gentle sound of a pianist playing somewhere in the background. I stopped in my tracks. Daniel! I breathed, looking up at him, my eyes wide. What is this? He smiled, a mixture of pride and nervousness flickering across his face. A special night for a special woman. I blinked rapidly, my throat tightening. But how? Before I could finish the question, he gently squeezed my hand and led me inside. The moment we stepped through the doors, I felt out of place. The chandeliers cast a soft glow over the pristine white tablecloths, and the scent of freshly baked bread and rich spices filled the air. The guests were dressed in the finest clothes, adorned with jewels that sparkled under the golden light. And then there was me, a hotel maid who had spent the day scrubbing floors, now standing in a place that felt like another world. My stomach twisted with uncertainty, but before I could protest, Daniel turned to me. His expression firm yet gentle. You belong here, he whispered, as if reading my thoughts. I swallowed hard. We were escorted to our table by a waiter who addressed Daniel with the same respect he might have given to a businessman or someone of importance. Felt surreal. As I sat down, smoothing my dress over my lap, I stole a glance at my son. He was watching me. Not in the way a child looks at their mother, but in a way that made my heart ache with an emotion I couldn't quite name. It was admiration. It was affection. It was something else. You haven't stopped staring at me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. His lips curled into a small smile. Because I want you to see what I see. I felt my cheeks warm. And what is that? His gaze softened. A woman who deserves the world. I had to look away, blinking back the sudden sting in my eyes. A waiter appeared, setting down a glass of wine in front of me. I barely drank, but tonight I took a small sip, letting the warmth spread through me. The menu was filled with dishes I had never even heard of. Fancy words, delicate descriptions, prices that made my stomach drop. Daniel, I said cautiously, lowering the menu. How did you afford all this? I had wanted to ask from the moment he handed me the dress. From the moment I saw him standing at my work, looking like a man who belonged in this world far more than I ever could. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling softly before meeting my eyes. I've been working, he said simply. I frowned. But you already work at the auto shop. I worked extra, he interrupted. After my shifts, after class, late at night. My friend runs a small repair garage on the other side of town. I helped him fix cars. Learned a lot, actually. I just stared at him, my heart hammering in my chest. For the last month, he continued, his voice steady, I saved everything I made, every cent, because I wanted to do this for you. I couldn't breathe. For me, I whispered, my voice barely holding together. He nodded, his expression earnest. Because you never do anything for yourself, Mom. You work yourself to exhaustion. You take care of everything. But when's the last time someone took care of you? I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Nobody has ever done this for you, he murmured, his fingers tracing the edge of his glass. But I wanted to. I needed to. Tears burned the back of my eyes. I had spent my life being strong, enduring, carrying the weight of my husband's failures, carrying the burden of keeping a roof over our heads, carrying the endless exhaustion of working a job that never saw me as anything more than the maid who cleaned up after others. I had never expected anything more. But tonight, sitting here in this beautiful place, wearing this beautiful dress, with my son looking at me as if I were the most important person in the world. For the first time I felt seen. Really, truly seen. Daniel, I whispered, my fingers trembling as I reached across the table, covering his hand with mine. You didn't have to do all this. His thumb brushed against my skin, his touch gentle, reverent. But I wanted to, he said softly. Because you're worth it. A single tear slipped down my cheek, and for once I didn't wipe it away. I let myself feel it. Feel the love, care, the overwhelming warmth of knowing that, in a world that had been so cruel, someone had looked at me and decided that I mattered. The food arrived, but I barely noticed, because all I could see was my son, and the way he was looking at me, like I was the most precious thing in the world.